hospital who's so there. This is a huge issue, right? I mean, we think some of us may have, oh, this is an easy problem to fix, right? Um, but in this context, it is not an easy fix. So I asked the chief medical officer, and he says, my hesitation is that our chaplaincy program is anemic. And how do we keep this going when Dallas leaves? My wife, who is a nurse practitioner, she says, Dallas, this is a huge problem, because I shared with her as well. And she says it's very complicated. She says, because who's going to pay for this? First and foremost, right? Is it just going to come from Cornell's church? Because he's rich and he's got lots of money there at his church. He could solve all of our problems in the third world countries real quickly. He just writes us a check from his missions fund. Or is that really a problem because we're bringing another culture into our culture? And now they're in control of our future. And so we're going to talk about issues like this. But let's first of all talk about contextualization from Hesselgrave. I hope all of you had a chance to read that article. It's a pretty short, but it's a very thoughtful article. It's one of Dr. Queen's friends, actually. And so he's a scholar that Dr. Queen knew well. And because Dr. Queen and I had talked about Hesselgrave. So I want you guys to just interject here from your reading. What is Hesselgrave most concerned about? What is he most concerned about in his article from a missionary perspective?
Let to express through my experience a little bit.
Yeah, go ahead.
Contextualization is a very important in our evangelism, because we are the Christian, but all the Burmese people, the most Burmese people are the Buddhism. They worship the Buddhists. They worship the Buddhist image, and everywhere only the monastery. So earlier, the presidents of UNU, they tried to declare the country, this Burmese country is the Buddhist country. So everybody, we have to worship and we have to accept the Buddhists as their religions. So this context mean Christian and Buddhist is a very specific what called very difficult for our. So when we make the evangelist to the cross-cultural, no, cross-cultural mean not our culture, Buddhism culture. We have to think, we have to know a little bit of their culture to respect them. If supposing if we said it is the image but they have eye, they have an ear, they have a mouth, but cannot hear, cannot see, cannot eat. So we cannot what call and to upset that. So it is a very difficult and very sensitive to enter
Yes.
their context. So we have to the first we have to know all around the Burmese country catching by the Satan, uh, catching by the Satan. The Satan influenced all country. So the first thing we have to know that is the first thing we must to make a spiritual warfare only spiritual warfare. So we fasting 40 days. Uh, only we 30 some missionary we fasting the 40 days. But uh, and before we entry to their contextualization. So after that, we around and uh, cut out the demon all over the country, all over the town, and we 30 people and 40 people were working with food and surrounding their city and cut out the demon. After that, we see they are emphasize and interest our proclaim the gospel. We
Mm.
know we see a little bit of what happened is, and then we proclaim the gospel, then a little bit, and then they come into Christ more and more. One
Mm.
month they come into Christ as 60 people, 70 people, 30 people every month, every month, every month. Uh, we proclaim the gospel and then we baptize them, we marry them. After that, we train them as discipleship to become a
Mm.
discipleship.
S-
We
s-
train
So,
them.
Andre, let
Yeah.
me ask you this. I threw these big words up here on the screen. Are you familiar with syncretism? Is That's a big English word. Maybe I should define that. But do you understand? Syncretism is this idea of adding Buddhism. In your context, it would be adding Buddhist things to Christianity. Um, does that make sense? So do you have a problem in your communities that you go and do ministry where maybe they pray to receive Christ, but they still go to the temple and seek a blessing or merit? Or they still go to the temple with their family because that's what the family does? Do you see maybe in your cultures that you're ministering to, do you find that they struggle with separating Christianity from the Buddhist traditions that their family holds? What do you think?
Sometimes it's the problems of Christian and Buddhism between the contextualization. It is a very sensitive for because the knowing the country is the Buddhist country, so everybody will worship the Buddhist, no Christian, no Islam, no other religions because
Yeah.
they're forced to doing like that. But by the grace of God, by the Holy Spirit of God, we cut out all of that evil spirits, and then God opened their hearts to go to monastery, to go to make a friend, relate with them, and proclaim the gospel. It is a very good, a wonderful thing for us happen in our evangelism.
That's good.
Very deep, but sometimes we have to uh, get the Holy Spirit power to conquer this the evil spirit, and to evangelize them and bring back to Christ. But now the earlier, the very, very difficult, and sometimes we have to go to jail. Sometimes the stone our church with stone. They doing a lot of, but we cannot go there, and we stable in our house and our areas, and with patiently we preach the gospel. but but now the monk and the Buddhism is very relaxed, and but very relate with us, so it is
Okay.
a little bit easy to proclaim the gospel, make the gospel
Okay.
with them.
Okay. How about anyone else? Let's think about what you read in Hasselgrave. What do you think
Okay.
are the biggest challenges that Hasselgrave tried to address? And I've kind of listed some of them. Which do you think he's most concerned with? Syncretism, which is adding to the gospel, or loss of truth. So that would be the gospel truth is lost within this culturalization. And some would be cultural compromise. What do you think? What is he most concerned with?
Yeah.
As I understood him,
Mm.
the second idea is, concerns Dr. Alsugrave. It has to do with we have the God's revelation, and this revelation has to be interpreted by those who have a responsibility to teach, and the way we apply it to the different areas of ministry. And he talks about the authenticity. So when we talk about context, he's concerned about the authenticity. And authenticity is linked to the interpreting the word, the revealed word, the Bible. And also he talks about the ways, exegetical discipline, and our culture, the ways of communication, the social structures of the interpreter, or the way we do theology. And he talks, okay, there's what we read from the Bible has a context, the original, the writer's context. And this is affected by the people who read and try to understand their own culture also, interferes, has some kind of impact. So it's a difficult situation
Yes.
to maintain the truth that God wanted to reveal through his word. And when I come to my own context, I've seen real problems. The way we see the world, our cosmos, cosmic view, is it that? Worldview.
Yeah.
Sometimes, it crashes with the truth revealed in the scriptures. And I can see some what I call it religious, is even a Christian in quotes, a Christian syncretism, which is a loss of truth, who have half truths being taught in the church, who adopt ways, media, the way of communicating the word itself. And this concerned our writer, the author of this book. So I was real pleased and challenged at the same time when we talk about the worldview, our worldview, and how we have to be careful. Our cognitive processes, our language, ways of, bringing the truth, what we find from the Bible. So I've seen a lot of authenticity, the authority of the Bible being somehow, messed up. So also, why do I go to church? What's the motivation here? So I see people becoming the central, concern of interpreting the Bible itself. No, man is a superstar, the main person, not God himself. I see this in the worship services. We know there's a freedom to go to the church, to that kind of religion, and pick something up which is contrary to the Bible, but is socially accepted. And I see to just at last I would say, okay, we find in our context, in my context, and I see how it affects our people's thinking, and we struggle to try to bring them back to what we believe is Bible truth. Has to do with the political context of Angola.
So
for long, yes.
So let me throw out another little silly story.
Yes.
To maybe help us all think through this, and then I want to get some other inputs as well. So I have a friend who used to be a missionary in China. So when he came back to America, he started doing discipleship with college students and leading them to Christ. And then they were Chinese students because he spoke Mandarin. And he would take them to his big Western church on Sunday. And every Sunday, they got to go to Bible study. The church always has coffee and donuts. And so in America, that's very typical. You go and there's a greeting place and there's always coffee, donuts, maybe hot water for tea, And so eventually the students had to go back to China, but he had been discipling them to do church together in a community group. And so they go back to China and he sends messages back to them and says, have you found a church? Have you found a church? And And the students would say, no, no, haven't found a church yet, haven't found a church. And they were living all in the same city. And so he finally says to all of them, why don't you guys just get together and do church together? Start a new church.
Sure. Mhm.
I have taught you how to do it. And they send him a message back and they say, oh, teacher, we can't do that. We're still students and we don't have enough money to buy donuts. And here is a culturalization issue. You know, when we think about the life where we live, are we interjecting a cultural identity that doesn't translate into the people that we're trying to reach? And so this is, you know, donuts are really good, guys. I love donuts. I'm sad that I can't find sweet donuts here in Cambodia. They don't do donuts here like they do in the Philippines. Philippines, you guys have such good donuts. But in Cambodia, they don't do donuts. And so sometimes we import and export the wrong things. And I think that's one of the issues that Hasselgrave is kind of helping us to try to think through, and maybe we don't all see them the same way. So let me ask, let's get some diversity of ideas here. What do you see in the article that jumps out at you? What kind of problems?
Okay, of course. There are behavioral problems caused by these sort of enculturation.
Yeah.
So people try to adopt, incorporate lifestyles, way of acting, which are really very, very strange to our own culture as Angolan.
Yeah.
My people, like, you know, the kind of colonization we suffered, the Portuguese colonization, you know, it went up to our heart. They tried to change everything to make us Portuguese people. And I've seen something in this article about the idea of being yourself, having a behavior which is authentic, but at the same time, which doesn't compromise the word of God. As we have read from 1 Corinthians chapter 9.
So Mario,
yes.
Can you give me one example of a truly authentic thing that is true of your culture and church?
Yeah, okay.
Just one thing. One quick thing. I want to get everybody else to be able to chime in on this kind of idea. What's one authentic thing for culture?
Eating together.
Okay.
Community.
That's good.
Community meals as a church.
Okay.
Which is very common.
Every time you get together, right? You do that?
Yes.
Okay.
And we find this in the Bible, you know.
Yes.
Examples of people, you know,
communing. Thank you, Mario.
With their meals and so on. So this is it's easy to lead people in this sort of communion and helping each other.
Thank you, Mario.
Culturally is very natural. So
that's good.
Yes, it's one example to having meals together.
Perfect, Mario. Let me ask some of our brothers or sisters, what's something very cultural that's true in your countries, in your context?
Within my context, celebratory. Sermons aren't in the African American culture, even though I'm not fully immersed in African American culture, but that's what I grew up in, and that's what's still in me, even though I'm in a more of a world culture. But what we do is celebrate. You don't come to church to be taught anything. That's Sunday school, that's Bible study. On Sunday mornings, you come to be encouraged by the word of God. And it is interactive to where when the preacher's preaching, you are encouraging him. Great job. That's what I need to hear. You're right on point. Man, that's what I was experiencing last night. Ooh, I needed to hear that. And then the preacher, as he's preaching, he wants to get the congregation involved by asking questions, by sharing things in such a way that's dynamic to make them say stuff. So it's a both and. I'm sharing to inform, but to encourage. And we are saying, great job, keep going, because you are encouraging me.
That's a great example, Cornell. And for a white American, I can feel really uncomfortable in that, but it's wonderful. And once you start getting used to it, it's very comfortable. But the first experience with that can be shocking, right? Because it's not my culture.
So just briefly to that, to the last question about contextualization. Currently, right now in America, for our classmates, there are certain classes of Christians. I don't want to put a label on them, but they're basically saying if you go to an African American church, you need to get out of African American churches because they don't really teach the gospel or they don't teach you anything. And that is going to Hargraves. They're basically saying our dominant culture or the way that we preach in our churches is the way that must be preached. And since you're not doing that in your church, then you're not Orthodox or you're not conservative. And many African Americans that are younger are saying, oh yeah, we need to leave these churches to go to these churches. But then they realize that many of those churches are the ones who kick them out. So that's the reason why that's the reason why there is something called the African American church, because the churches who are saying these things in 2026 are the churches that kicked you out in 1896. So just that contextualization of what we're talking about, that's the reason why our culture celebrates this way. And it's so different because it's even the brothers who are supposed to love us hate us, all while still saying that they love God. What do? We got to encourage ourselves.
Thank you, Courtney. Anybody else want to share something culturally unique?
Yeah. Culture is just has to do way of doing things. Sorry. Yeah. Culture, it has to do with the way of our, like our own way of doing things. And here also just with Dr. Hasselgrove, he didn't deny actually the contractualization. But like sometimes we need to, but he encouraged us to find a way about cultural relevance and also like a kind of balancing between faithfulness and effectiveness. Most of the time, just we try to just focus on the effectiveness, but we need to be faithful for the word of God, the biblical authority, and like Mario said, in our culture, it's having a fellowship like meal and it's something, just to have a meal together. It is like highly relevant. But at the same time, just we find also like, in some way, someplace, people also just compromising with that kind of issues. And when we bring it also just to here in Europe, the European culture is different. So it's really, I find out, just with his advice, just we need to be balanced. And balancing things is very important in this way. That's what's up.
Yes. Daniel, thank you. That was great insights. Anybody else want to share in your culture? If you haven't shared already, please feel free to share. I would love to hear about contextual issues that you have seen that are authentically you in your culture.
I just want to add something. It has to do with the singing. You see, in every community event, even we sing. At the death of someone, we sing. When we celebrate harvest, we sing. At the circumcision of a child, boy child, we sing. When we are at the meal, making a flour from corn, we sing.
That's good, Mario.
So that's why in church, in our church context, you find in a church a lot of choirs, multiple choirs, because that's true to our own culture. And
that's very good, Mario. Thank you.
That's it.
How about somebody from the Philippines or Myanmar? You want to share something authentically cultural from your perspective?
Yeah, here in the Philippines, I think very unique is our hospitality. The hospitality is really part of our culture.
Tell me what you mean by that, Hector. What is hospitality? How is it different than somewhere else?
Almost every Filipino, especially during festival, everybody's welcome to come, or even you do not know that person, just passing by, you will invite them. People will invite them to join in a meal or everything. That's also carried with the people in the community, that people will always welcome you sharing the gospel. But it does not necessarily mean that they open their hearts to the gospel. So it's not really winning when they say that they accept the Lord, follow the sinner's prayer. It's not really enough until you really win the head of the family, or having a deeper relationship with them. So basically, good that we Filipinos are open to welcome visitors. But
that's a great example, Hector. Great example.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
You know what I noticed when I was in the Philippines? You cannot tell somebody you like something.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I told someone, I said, "Oh my goodness, your mangoes in your tree look amazing." And instantly I had a bag of mangoes. Instantly. I was at a swimming pool and some people had these avocados this big. And in America, I said, "Oh my goodness, your avocados are so big. I've never seen avocados so big." And instantly I had a bag of avocados. I told someone I liked their hat, and instantly I had a hat. So I stopped making any comments about anything. That's their hospitality, right? And it opens the door for the gospel, but it doesn't mean any of those people liked me at all. They didn't give that to me because they liked me or had a relationship with me. It was just a part of your culture. I think that's a great example and how it ties to the gospel. How about somebody from Myanmar? Give me something that's really culturally unique from the context that you're in.
I think in Myanmar, contextualization is very important in our making evangelism and mission.
What, Andre? Tell me one thing that's really authentic from your culture.
You mean Buddhism culture or our Christian culture? I don't know.
Well, that's an interest, and I love that you asked that question. Is there something that is unique? So are you Chen?
Yeah.
Okay, so what's if you were to describe to me a Chen person, what is authentically Chen? Every Chen does it.
I'm not a Chin. I'm a Karen people.
Okay, Karen.
Myanmar.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah,
I know
yeah.
Karen. So
Yeah,
what
yeah.
is authentically Karen?
The Karen people, when the Dr. The earlier missionary came from America, Dr. Jason. And
Jensen, yeah.
after 90 years, the Christian coming to our Karen people. So 19 years later, so many Karen people becoming Christian. So the culture is the Karen people. I think a little bit like Western culture, a little bit because of relate with religions. So our
Okay.
culture is very near as USA, American.
Oh, okay. Well, I will push back on you, Andre, a little bit.
Yeah.
Because in my culture, I never sit on the floor. Never ever do I sit on the floor. My legs hurt when I sit on the floor, Andre.
Yeah.
I have never gone to a birthday party that is as big as a Karen birthday party.
Yeah.
And so much fruit at a Karen birthday party. It's not like anything I've ever seen in America.
Yeah.
Till I go to an American Karen person's house and they say, "Oh, come in, have a seat." And I go, "Where's my chair?" And they say, "Oh, we have no chair for you. Sorry, but we have a mat."
Yeah.
I think you guys have a lot of cultural differences, and I think it's really interesting. I think it's interesting the way you welcome people into your homes, just like what I've heard a little bit from others. But I think there's things that I don't know about your culture just because I'm not part of it. But that's kind of what I was wanting. I know that Christians are very Christianized, but I also think in the Karen population, at least in my city, they are so Christian that they don't know Jesus.
Yes.
They know Adonai Judson, but they don't know Jesus.
Yes.
I think that's a real big problem for the Karen
yeah,
people in America. No
yeah,
discipleship. They know it's kind of like I heard a comedian, a Christian comedian, his friends, he liked to tell people about Jesus. And his friends said, after he got saved, he said, "Oh, you're like Billy Graham." And he goes, "I don't know Billy Graham, but I know Jesus." And and yet I think for Karen people, that's true. You see a lot of Karen people who know Adoniram Judson, but they do not know Jesus.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and so it's an interesting dynamic, and I think it makes it a challenge to disciple. It makes it a challenge to do evangelism, and so that's what I'm talking about when I'm asking questions like this. And this is, and I don't mean to cut you off, Andre, but I want to keep moving here too. One of the reasons Hasselgrave remains so influential is that he recognizes these two dangers that missionaries often face. Some missionaries are so concerned with preserving culture that they never communicate effectively within that culture. Others are so concerned with being a part of the culture that they compromise biblical truth. And Hasselgrave argues that faithful mission work has to avoid both of those. Too little contextualization leads to irrelevance. So I think Adoniram Judson did many really good things, but he didn't make the gospel relevant for many Karen people. It became community, but not Christ.
Yeah.
And too much contextualization then leads to syncretism, which means we just add Jesus to one more God. And in America, this is a huge problem, I think, where
Yeah.
we just add Jesus to Sunday afternoon football, or we add it to capitalism. You know, to be a good Christian, you have to be capitalist. Or
Yeah.
in some American cultures, you have to be a Christian nationalist, and that's syncretism from my vantage point. It's not. So it these types of things. I guess I'm sharing all of this because I want us to challenge the way we think about ministry and evaluate it in this sense. Irrelevance occurs when the gospel is communicated in a way that are technically true, but culturally disconnected. So if I make you a Christian, or I twist your arm into being a Christian because you've got to come to my group, you lose your cultural identity. And then the gospel disappears. Using theological vocabulary, no one understands, like syncretism. Maybe I've done this a little bit in our class, but you guys are all doctoral candidates. So assuming biblical background knowledge of people that they don't possess, importing foreign church practices like eating donuts, presenting Christianity as a foreign culture rather than a biblical faith. I think all of those are errors. So let me ask you guys a little bit different. Have you ever heard a sermon that was true, but difficult for outsiders to understand? So syncretism occurs when the Bible truth becomes mixed with beliefs or practices that fundamentally change the gospel. So Christ becomes ancestor worship. Have you ever seen that? I have, in Asia. Christ plus spirit appeasement. We still go and we have a shrine in our house, but we go to church every Sunday. Christ plus works is syncretism. Christ plus our folk religion is syncretism. Not every cultural adaptation is syncretism. So having fellowship meals, like Mario, I think it was Mario that talked about eating, it's just part of our culture. That's not syncretism. It's cultural. When we show hospitality, I don't think hospitality in and of itself is a bad thing, but it is a barrier to sharing the gospel sometimes. But how do we incorporate that into the gospel sharing so that it communicates the gospel? Because the gospel does talk a lot about hospitality. I had a Chen young man. He came to me and he said, I can't trust Jesus because my dad thinks I'll not be a good son anymore. Well, the Bible tells us that we are to honor our fathers and mothers. So I told him, I said, go back to your dad and prove to him that you're going to be the better son because you follow Jesus. And then he did. And his father eventually let him get baptized. And eventually he had a better relationship with his dad, because sometimes we as Christians in our culture, we say, oh, you need to separate from your parents because you're a Christian now and they're Buddhist. Well, that does send a really bad message to our parents. I think we need to honor our parents. We still, in an Asian culture, I would always encourage a son to go back home and honor his mother and father, right? Because that communicates honoring, just like a biblical honoring. It's obeying the 10 commandments. Honor your father and mother. It's the only command in the 10 that comes with a promise. And so when we honor our fathers and mothers, it's really an important part of Christianity. But sometimes because we're afraid of adding a little context, we remove the contextualization and make it a Western version. And I'll tell you what, Western Christians do a terrible job of loving our family. In most cases, we don't honor our father and mother at all. So we're more like the Jewish leaders who said, we're going to do Korban. I'm not going to take care of my mom and dad because everything belongs to Jesus. So, I think the question that I asked was a little bit of a trick question. Hasselgrave repeatedly warns against both extremes. He is not advocating for a compromise. He is advocating for faithful contextualization. So this is kind of the point of all of these questions. Hasselgrave is not asking us to choose one danger over another danger. He's reminding us to be faithful and that both dangers are real. Too little contextualization causes our faith to look like a Western faith. My wife is Christian, and when I share, but she's Chinese as well. And when we share the gospel, sometimes in a Chinese context, they'll say, oh, well, that's an American religion. That's a Western religion because it looks like a Western religion. To them, a younger religion like Confucianism, much younger than Christianity, to them that looks like an Eastern religion because it's embedded in culture. And so I think we have to think through those elements as we evaluate missions. So let me move on here. Which danger is more common in your ministry right now? So right now we're going to go more into, we're going to move from theory to application. Okay. In Southeast Asia, I think you'll see something different than maybe you'll see in Africa. But which danger is most common? So just brief answers, because we're going to try to rush. We got a lot to accomplish here in the next 15 minutes or so, and I just want some brief answers. Just which thing is the biggest problem in your ministry context? Syncretism, irrelevance. Let me go back to that slide so you see it. Which one is too little contextualization or too much? Which one?
Yeah, too much contextualization. In our case here,
okay.
Yeah, secretism is one of the biggest challenge in our case because like we are ministering between the first generation and the second generation. We have children who are born here in the UK and they are more easily adopt the Western culture. But the first generation always try to just input and try to influence with their culture that they brought that culture from Ethiopia and try to communicate. So even we have some challenge to reach out our own generation, our own children's, because as I said before, we call them children between culture.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Thank you, Daniel.
You're welcome.
How about somebody from the Philippines? Which is the biggest danger?
Sir, I think too much contextualization because Roman Catholicism is very strong and some of the practices and traditions still many churchgoers or believers still observe those traditions.
Okay.
And I would like also to share something about an American missionary who I encountered because many were offended of him because he made fun of the gestures that we Filipino make. For example, when we point a direction, we use our lips like there. So he made fun of it, even running through the rain using handkerchiefs. He just made fun of it to the extent that many in that group were offended because he really looked down and made fun of this common thing that we use. So I think that is also problem in too little contextualization, not really know how we Filipino respond.
That's wonderful example, Hector. Wonderful. Maybe when you have missionaries from overseas come, you should give them a class. Because I always try to get someone from the culture to teach my teams when I bring teams. Teach us what not to say, because especially Americans, we just say what it comes off our head. And sometimes it's very sarcastic and it's really hurtful. I hope I haven't done that today, but but we tend to do that. It's our culture. It's especially the culture we live in today. So thank you, Hector. Anyone else? What's the biggest danger?
Yes,
On our
some
end, where I'm at, it's too much contextualization.
Too much contextualization. Who else was getting ready to talk?
yes, sir. I believe that in our place, criticism. And some funny thing I would like to share that, and most of us like the Western culture, we want to wear shoes, coat, and some people they say it is our Burmese culture. We have to wear this. No, we are not in a Western, but we are in the Eastern. We are in Myanmar. But in some church that I experienced that some church they want to wear like Western, but in Rangoon we cannot wear because it is a hot weather. It is very hot. One condition is that we need to have AC in our church. So when they install AC in the church, for AC also some young people they want AC, but some older people they cannot stay under the AC, very cold. So some these in different conditions also I have experience.
Yes, that's a great example too.
Yeah.
Got to have air conditioning. I went to a church, where was that? Recently, and all the local people had coats on. Only the missionaries were in little light shirts like mine. It was really funny. And I experienced that in the Philippines as well. If they turned it on for me, everyone else put a coat on. It's a great example. Sometimes we think of problems with contextualization, but I think contextualization can be also done well. We often think about the negatives, but Paul was great at it. Paul began with concepts his audience understood. Specifically, I think of when he went to Athens. He was able to draw in the cultural things and do that. I think another great example of contextualization is the Bible translations that we do. In America, we sometimes struggle with contextualizing, and we just say something negative about maybe a easy reader version Bible. But I think those are important if we're going to help communicate in a heart language. If I'm going to a jail or a place where people have low literacy, handing them a King James Bible might be the most difficult thing that I could ever do to helping them grow in their faith. And then another great example of contextualization that I heard from Mario was singing. If all you sing is Hillsong from Australia, you may miss out on some really great music that's very culturally relevant. And I think we have to think about that as missionaries. So how can this is a really important question, and I hope this is one that you actually take away from here. How can missionaries determine whether an adaptation is faithful or syncretism? This is where I think we really have to kind of think through everything that's going on in our ministries. Hasselgrave's contribution is not a formula. I think what he shares with us is a warning. Missionaries must constantly ask, are we communicating clearly enough to be understood? Are we remaining faithful enough to proclaim the gospel? Faithful contextualization lives in this tension. Am I communicating? Does it make sense to the people I'm talking to? And am I still holding faithful to the gospel? I think those are important. In my own ministry context, one of the challenges is leadership development and ownership. International churches often desire indigenous leadership, but we're gonna break out into groups, but I want to give you the context just in case you don't know. But the leaders who emerge are frequently English speaking, Western educated, and culturally different from the broader population that we hope to reach. So we have English speaking churches and missionaries are there training indigenous people, but the indigenous people don't look like all the rest of the indigenous people. They're college educated. They know how to speak English well. They actually love air conditioning. And they've been to school in America or in Australia or in England. And so they're totally different from the rest of the population of the country. I want to ask you a question. Is that success? Is that failure or something in between?
I think it's assimilation into a culture and not truly authentic gospel work. You're getting people to assimilate. So in essence, they're saying this is what it means to be Christian. In reality of it, that's not what it means to be Christian. What it means to be a follower of Christ, to live faithfully to the text, to love your neighbor as you love yourself. But whenever what you're saying, I just don't think that that's being faithful.
Any pushback? How do you guys feel about that? Because here's a bunch of, I've got a group of Western trained pastors here on this call, but you're from everywhere around the world. Now you've all been trained by me and by Dr. Queen and Dr. Creech, and you speak English really well. You're super educated. How do you guys feel? I'd love to have a little bit of input from somebody.
I believe finding balancing between, again, with a faithful contextualization and being also faithful for the biblical authority is very important. So balance is a key word, I believe.
I like that, Daniel. I think that's a good word. So I want us to have kind of a lab today. So I've got 3 examples here. And the first one is the foreign church building, okay? So a missionary team receives a large donation from supporters overseas. They decide to construct a church building that is significantly larger and more modern than any of the other structures in their community. The building includes air conditioning, which I think our brother just really added to the conversation here by his example. Imported furnishings, modern technology, salaries, partially funded from abroad. But in 5 years, the maintenance costs are really hard to sustain for the indigenous leaders. The local giving remains low because the incomes are low. The members expect outside financial support, and the church continues to rely heavily on foreign funding. Some of you are going to be in a group And this is going to be your case study. Okay, so keep this in your mind. You've got all this going on. What cultural values are present, the biblical principles that should be applied, is dependency created, and how might it affect ownership, and what would be an alternative? So those are the questions you're going to ask for each of these. What is a cultural value? Biblical principles that apply, dependency created, ownership, and is there an alternative? So the second one is this one's the one that I just gave you. An international church develops 10 local leaders. All 10 speak fluent English. All 10 work closely with expats, and none of them are from the rural communities. Is this healthy leadership development? Okay, so you're going to think about how might this affect ownership? What would be an alternative leadership pathway that might be healthy? If there is one, maybe this is perfect from your vantage point, but I want you to kind of work as a group on this. This will be group number 2. So group number 1, group number 2, and then I've got group number 3. Here we go. So a new believer comes from a Buddhist family. Each year, his entire village participates in a community festival. The event includes a family gathering. People all climb over the fence and they go to a family party where there's a shared meal, honoring of community traditions. Offering is then made at a local temple. The new believer asks, "May I attend with my family? If I refuse, the relationships in my family might suffer and community trust might be damaged. What should they do?" And if he participates, some church members fear compromise. So what is the cultural values that are present, biblical truths that are involved? How might contextualization be more appropriate? And how do we prevent syncretism occurring in this sense? How would you disciple this new believer? Okay, so our host is going to break us into 3 groups. Is there a way to label 1, 2, and 3? If not, maybe I can jump between. But the first group we'll do number 1, foreign building. Group 2, leadership development. Group 3, basic discipleship. So would our host break us up into groups and we can talk about this? We're going to talk about it for about 5 to 10 minutes. So answer those questions: cultural values, biblical truths, and alternatives.
Okay.
Kapu? Okay.
You can join your group. This is
Hello.
okay, sir.
Yeah, group 3 case
This will
study.
be group 3. So Can you move me to group one? Can I switch back and forth, or is that only for you?
Okay, let me.
Wait, discussion, leadership, study.
This would be
Leadership
number
study.
3.
Right.
This is
Number
going to
3.
be you're group 3, so you're doing the festival dilemma for
Yes.
the new believer. How are you going to coach this new believer who's got a family cultural problem?
We need to give them more time to motivation and building to biblical contact, biblical counseling because of
So
he
would
or
you
she
like
can
to go to group 1, group 2?
3.
I see
But-
room 3 on top.
Yeah, you are in group 3. Yes. So is it okay?
Yes. It is fine.
Okay. Thank
I
you.
was. Go ahead, guys. Elena.
Yeah, because he or she come from Buddhist background. That's why he or she did not know to nano biblical, nano Christian culture, nano Christian
to train the discipleship and church planting. The building necessary, but the earlier that we told, the building is a bigger building. Sometimes need to maintain, but when we have a little bit of money, we cannot maintain that building. So I think not to push the mission work.
This is not, for me, this cannot be successful because as far as contextualization is concerned, it is taking the truth, the gospel, and putting it in the language, culture, and form that people can actually understand and receive. If the leaders are foreigners, the recipients, the people in that community, they cannot actually they cannot fully understand and receive it because of difference in culture, difference in many ways. So just like sending American missionaries in a mountain, how does the people in the mountain can understand those brilliant ideas from Western countries?
Yes, I agree, Sister Elvira. Hello.
How about your food? What's your thought on this?
Our group discussed about leadership.
Yes.
La pocha pocha si kebu kata piti mi kata na mzua kwe.
Yes. We the local leadership is very important. We sure that we need the knowledge or guiding, coaching we may need from outside But when we do our group, our community, we know the best. We know what we need, and we know what is their strength and weakness. So sometimes we need to adopt from outsiders, not everything. We don't know that when we are in leadership, we don't know what others may think, but in respect, they may say yes to us. They will not deny. But sometimes for them it's not okay. So we need to discover their face, their reactions. We need to aware of that also, I think. So we know others' language, we know how to lead, and we learn from them. So, and wisdom, knowledge will come from the Holy Spirit to be sensitive to be make sure how to lead our communities. So we need to pray. We need let the Holy Spirit guide us and teach us how to lead our communities. So this, according to our missionary contextualizations or sarcasm, yes, sometimes we have to avoid some cultural practice. Sometimes we need to allow them to do what is related to the Bible. This is all I want to share.
I'm sorry that today the internet connection is very poor. That's I could not be able to get anything.
Yes. Anything others?
Another thing about contextualization. Of course, we are keeping the gospel, the truth,
Yes.
but we will express it in ways a culture can understand. In our case, the people, they are nobody came from the rural communities. So how can we, what I'm thinking is the culture that they have. Those foreign leaders, just like imported to their place, how can they understand the culture since they are completely different? So it's very hard to have successful leadership if this is the case.
Yeah, that is only leadership development, but the ministry is not success. If the main focus is only for leadership development, it's a kind of self-development. It looks like self-development, but the Bible focus is going to all the world and preach the gospel to all nations. So this kind of success is not fully biblical. This is I observe. Yes, Zion, if you have something to add, you can
Sorry.
say something from your perspective?
Which topics you are discussing now about that? Because of the connection problem, that's I cannot get some that idea. So the today electricity also gone. That's this is my place a little
We are
bit.
group 2, leadership development. Leadership development is our topic.
Oh.
In our case, also it's mentioned here that the speakers are English speaking. However, it was not mentioned about the people or the rural communities. Do they have the same language? Do they communicate well? So in order for a leadership to be successful, they should understand the people, not only in the way they speak, but also the culture and their beliefs.
Another thing in mission, language is very important. So that's really something. It's very important for the leaders to, especially the gospel, to communicate with the community. In our case, they are all English-speaking leaders, so I think that will be a problem.
I think we need to head back to the main room now.
Okay.
Should there be somebody who will discuss it? Can it be Hector Alpino, please? Can you lead us?
Yeah, I agree. Okay, yeah, Brother Hector.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
We didn't finish.
Okay, everybody back?
Yeah.
So did you solve all the world's problems in your group? Do we have a report from group 1? Did you guys, what do you think you came up with?
Brother Kunan reported.
I screenshotted the question that you asked, but I will pose as despicable to the text. So we'll agree that it's improper for the missionaries to do it because they probably tell us for the context of our sin, so that they way should be and add on the tool and looking at which people were and even were. So that kind of we kind of concluded that the missionaries came and did the Google or his service, and they actually did extra.
Did anybody else hear him? I
I
really struggled with hearing.
13 in a row for me.
Oh,
better
now I hear you.
So,
Better.
yeah. So the one that we did, Or is it a breakup? Well, Daniel, go.
Hopefully everybody else heard him well. I'm wondering if my connection's bad. So
Daniel, can you do it for me?
Yes, I
Daniel,
can.
Daniel.
Yes, I can. Can you hear me now?
yeah, I hear you, Daniel.
Yeah.
I could not
In
I
our
could not
in our
hear Cornell.
discussions, we said we need to find, like, because the case was, just funding for the maintenance of the building, and at the same time also just to look after others who are in need. So in our discussion, we say we need to find a balance between it, between funding the maintenance and at the same time also look after those who are in need. Because what is the priority? The priority is like those people who are in need, they need just our support. So even though the sending or the missionary sending authority, they are looking just for the outcome to see like this, they are build a huge buildings, but that is, has to do with institution. So, but here it's the more important is that relationship, and at the same time building love and look after others. So we said in the country, like we are from different countries, and we try to see from our own context, and we said people are more important. So we need to just prioritize those situations.
Very good. How about group 2? Who was in? I think group 2 was a big group, so there should be somebody who can report on what you discussed.
Pastor LB will be reporting.
I was about to call your name.
You got to be quick. You got to call on somebody before they call on you. Go ahead.
Okay, our case is about leadership. Sorry. 10 speak fluent English was sent. And but the problem is none comes from the surrounding cultural communities. In this case, we found some problems. One is the culture. Definitely, those English-speaking people cannot understand the culture of the people, which is very necessary in sharing the gospel. Of course, in contextualization, you are still holding the truth according to their situation. Another problem is communication. As we have mentioned, maybe 10 people from American people, let's say, they were sent to in a province or in a mountain. Definitely, they cannot understand each other. So leadership development is not possible to be successful. And in this case, maybe the things that they can do is they should stay longer, not just a year or two, maybe, so that the more that they were into deep, batawag doon, deep, when they are deeply, ano na sa tawag doon? Connected with them, soon they will understand each other. So time is very important in this manner to be successful.
Okay.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you for sharing. How about Arod?
Yeah.
What's your group? Who's the leader in your group? Number 3.
There is no leader. No,
You're
no
all
one.
leaders.
So
He's a
so
leader. Arun.
They elected
so
you.
yeah, so we did not come up with a like one strategy. Tane was saying like the new believers should just leave, don't attend the festival because in Myanmar, he said that idolatry is rampant. You really just have to leave. And then Ain't, I think, was more like discipleship. She wants more discipleship. And my position was which I think is the same as Ain't, because mine was a deeper relationship with the church members, wherein I can talk more with them first, and then understand, um, like understand the festival organ family. So we did not have a common um, strategy to do. So I guess my suggestion is to for all three of us to meet and pray.
You know, I picked these because they're not easy answers. Every single one of these are real issues that I have experienced on the mission field, either in America or in Thailand or in Cambodia now. All of these are real issues. And I think if you go away from this seminar, at least being challenged to think through how you would respond, and I hope you will respond maybe differently than you did before, only because you have some new knowledge. That would be a win for me. So I think one of the things I guess I just want to close with is this. We have two ways of coming at this that I think are wrong. When we reject everything local, that's a huge error. And it's different from my culture. So I don't have to do it. We won't do it. We won't participate in it. It's just wrong because it's not from my culture. That's a huge error. Rejecting everything that makes community within your context, I think, is an error. And that's what Hasselgrave brings forth. The second error is similar in that we accept everything that's local. It's part of their culture, therefore it must be acceptable. And if that's what we do, I think we fail in both places. One of the things I heard Mario and Daniel and probably some others of you talking about the idea of balance. And I think that really is an important place that as D-man candidates, having balance in your life is important for your spiritual life, but also for your church life. But as you approach some of the problems in your own ministry projects going forward in the future, I hope that you start thinking about some of the things that you have been challenged to learn, whether it's the missionary task, whether it's evangelism, whether it's contextual. I'm hoping that in the future you'll have another seminar, because I've taught another seminar with Dr. Carr where we just talked intensely about context. We've only touched on the surface of it. In the reading that I did for another seminar, we went deep into contextual theory that is old and new, and started talking about that. I think these are real issues that you have to grapple with and resolve. And so anyway, all of that to say, these are not easy issues. If they were easy, we would have solved them and we wouldn't still be discussing them. And so I want to challenge you to at least challenge what you've learned in the past, by focusing on what you've learned during this class. Do you guys have any questions about the assignments from the syllabus? I'll take that as a no.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
My question, one of my questions has to do with the how I should know do the sort of rating or evaluation my reading assignments. It says that completed and the date of completion of the reading of certain reading tasks, the books I read, the way it's presented, I couldn't understand it thoroughly. So I said, no, I must ask my professor to tell me how. I should just say, okay, such a book, I read it in the day.
So
what?
I think on the chart
in front, we find grades, 180 or what, and so on. So I'm a bit confused how I should do it. I've finished my reading really, but I'm not quite sure how I organize the information.
I think if I remember, because Dr. Queen created that little turn-in sheet, and so I'm trying to remember from memory because I approved it. But basically, you're just saying, did I read it?
Yes.
Yes or no? Or what percentage of it did I read? Hopefully, I think Dr. Queen and I both made an effort to try not to give you too much to read. So I know it was challenging to read, and especially challenging in English, possibly for some of you. But the goal was for you to really read and focus on what was being written and be challenged by it. So the real goal is, did I read it, and what day did I finish it? So if you finished it before each seminar, then you're golden. Just put down complete. And if you read the evangelism assignment before the evangelism, put that date. If you haven't read it yet, but you're still finishing it, write down that date. And so I think that's pretty clear. Did I answer that question, Mario?
Yes.
Yeah. Don't make it super hard. And then the writing assignment, I think, is pretty straightforward. And our main goal is trying to help you prepare for your project. And some of you have sent me very nice project ideas, and all I've done is usually just sent you some ideas on how to refine it. I don't know if Dr. Queen has sent any of you any additional material, but most of the ones that I've seen have been fantastic. They're on point. There were just little refinements. One of the big things that I always struggled with, and I think 99% of all DMin candidates struggle with, is making it tighter. Don't try to solve the world's problems. Try to solve a problem within your context. Try to research a context problem within your context that'll help you move your ministry forward. So if you want to address evangelism in Myanmar, for instance, that's a big country with so many different people groups. Are you going to write about, if you include all of Myanmar, you probably have to touch on multiple people groups. If I'm going to do the Philippines, for instance, gosh, you've got Nunyan people groups, you've got all these mountain areas, you've got islands that are isolated. Oh my goodness, you just made a tremendous number of potential problems. I would encourage, if you're going to write about, for instance, I'll just say the Philippines, pick a smaller segment of population to research so that you're an expert on your group. I did my project was on rural, small little churches in towns under 5,000 people in the Midwest. So it didn't include any of those weird people from the south of North America or the West. Like, you know, I didn't want to talk about Cornell's people out there in crazy California. You know, I didn't want to have to research them because that's too complicated. And I didn't include any people on the East Coast. I just stuck with my rural context. And I wrote 150 pages just on that and reporting my project. My project was a little different than the way they've asked you to do yours. So if you can focus on something smaller, I think you'll be better off, and you'll be an expert on your context. And that is the beauty of this. As a doctor, you don't have to be, you don't in the DMin program, you don't have to be an expert on everything, Old Testament, New Testament, but your expertise really it comes from, I can disciple my people well, or I can do ministry in my culture well. And if you need to know how to do it, I'm a doctor in my culture. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All of
but
that
I'm,
is an
I'm
encouragement just
still
on your paper. Yeah, go ahead, Mario.
still expecting to receive your ideas.
Can you
yes.
Can you resend me that thing? Because I thought I had responded to you, but I want to make sure.
Okay. Not yet.
So
I didn't receive any.
So resend
Okay.
your email so it's in the top of my email, because I thought I'd responded to all of them. And make sure you copy Dr. Queen. Okay.
Yes. Thank you.
Anybody else? Any other?
What about the due date?
It should all be in the syllabus.
Yeah.
So please consult on the due dates. I don't have them all in memory. So please consult your syllabus. And if it's not clear, please send Dr. Queen and I a quick note. Anything else? You guys are an awesome group. I don't know if anybody's told you that. But if you have any questions about missions, feel free to continue to talk. I know that I need to meet with Daniel real quick and set up an appointment with him before we jump offline. But if we're all done, I would like to close us in prayer. Is that okay? Dear precious Heavenly Father, Lord, I'm grateful for each of these candidates, Lord, for the hard work that they've put in already and the work that they will accomplish going forward. Lord, I pray for their ministries. May they not suffer because of all the hard work and time that they're spending preparing and training. But Lord, more importantly than their ministry, Lord, I pray that this would not be a season of dryness as they study, as they read, but Lord, that you would speak even through the books and the articles that they're reading, that they would grow in the likeness of Jesus, that they would lean into your presence and grow. So I pray your blessing upon each and every one of them. Lord, may they be better missionaries and evangelists because they've been a participant with each other and with Dr. Queen and myself. And I know that I have grown, God, and I thank you for each of them. And I pray your blessing in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Amen. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
God bless you. God bless you.